Saints fans and Who-Dats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz. With your host, Bob Rose.
Good evening, New Orleans Saints fans of the Bayou Blitz, fans west of the NFL, all over the world, and we welcome you for another Wednesday night here at the Bayou Blitz. We want to thank you for having us into your homes and over your airwaves again. I am Bob Rose, or what's left of him, and joining me is my equally reeling co-host, Mr. Kyle Mosley. Kyle, how are you tonight?
Hey, Bob, I'm doing better than you, my friend, but I'm doing all right. And Who Dat Nation, look, guys, I don't want to be cliche man or say things that's going to be hurting to your feelings, but let's look at it in a positive sense, man. We know we have a great team. We had a fantastic season in 2018 to 2019. Let's relish in those wins that we did have on the board, the 14 wins that the Saints were able to produce, and let's just kind of learn from these situations and be able to start be commanders of our own fate. And I think that's one thing I want to bring up in this broadcast tonight, and I think this is something the Saints have learned.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Lord knows this team is littered, with playoff postseason shortcomings. We could devote a show on each one of them, which isn't actually a bad idea for the off season. But this one I think hurts a little bit more because A, it's so recent. I mean, it literally, obviously, just happened a couple of days ago, and B, because of the way that it happened. And obviously, like you said, Kyle, Saints fans, myself, and I'm sure you included, we're angry. We feel cheated, and there's a reason for that. But I mean, before we talk about the elephant in the room, let's say this: they aren't going to replay the game. They aren't going to award the Saints a first-round draft choice. And the Los Angeles Rams are the NFC champions this year, and there will not be an asterisk by that. What is a shame, and I've said it many times, what is a shame is that we even have to have this conversation, because this was a game between two terrific football teams, two teams that played their hearts out and really went after one another. And heck, both teams are championship worthy. I personally think that the Saints, I'm not going to say deserved it more, but I think that they outplayed the Rams not only in this game, but for the majority of the season. That's, like you said, it is what it is, and that's not the way that it worked out. And hopefully, I mean, I have a few sports collectibles less as a result of my reactions after the game, and I'm sure everybody had similar poor reactions. But life goes on. And we'll talk about the officiating, we'll talk about the game, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. Anybody that's legitimately holding out hope that the commissioner will reenact a clause in the rule book that the game will be rematched or anything like that, no. Make your voices heard. Make the NFL realize, how you feel about what happened, but don't expect anything to come of it, unfortunately.
As I said to our Twitter followers, it will never, ever, 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 ever happen, because the business side of replaying a football game, one, is a nightmare for them to be able to consider. Two, it would show that there was some sort of drastic situation that the NFL, which in their business sense always likes, they prefer to be in control of everything, right? So that would mean they have to admit a fault, admit losing control, right? Or admit that the officials that they put out on the field, which are not full-time National Football League sanctioned officials, right, did a poor job. And also, think about this, Bob. They would have to really say, and I thought about this. Okay, so you have the wild card playoff games, you have the divisional games, you have the championship Sunday games, and then you have the Super Bowl, right? So therefore, these officials were supposed to be the top tier officials in the league. And these officials that were in the championship games were the second top tier because they don't get to go to the Super Bowl, right? Those guys have already been selected. So that meant if you gave a do-over or even admitted any fault, which you notice the NFL nor Roger Goodell has and will make a statement, especially this week, about that game or any of the calls, that means the officials that they put out there are fraudulent or they made some poor decisions, right? And everybody say there's human error into being an official. Well, obviously, yeah, there's human error, but egregious human error is what we are, I would say, in the Hugh That Nation complaining about, right? But think about it. The hypocrisy of it all becomes more evident with the NFL because earlier this season, I believe, was it Hugo Cruz, the official that was released and fired after he missed a false start call in the Browns and Chargers game earlier this season, Bob. And, you know, the NFL officiating crew, they really acted pretty quickly after that game to release him and to fire him, right? So why aren't these guys being scrutinized for what they have done? I believe the number 13 was Patrick Turner and number 60 was Mr. Cavaletto. And matter of fact, it seemed as though Cavaletto was the one who waved off the anyone coming toward him to ask and inquire about his decision. Remember, Sean Payton was coming in. He told him to get back. He told Armstead, or I believe it was Armstead, to get back. He told even Turner, no. He said it a couple of times, and no, it was nothing to it, because it seemed like Turner was the one originally coming to throw the flag, but I don't think he had the guts to throw it because, I mean, somebody knew that something was wrong. In a play like that, either you throw the flag and then you discuss it, and if you come to an agreement that you didn't see anything, well, then you pick it up. But it wasn't even a discussion. That's what made it so blatant, you know. And then when the referee, even with a situation like that, the head referee, man, I forgot his name, Vic, right, whomever.
Vinovich, yeah.
Yeah, Vinovich. He didn't even come over to those guys to see what was going on until later. You saw Sean Payton talking with him, and he said, I think Payton said this was a Super Bowl call, and he agreed, but he didn't discuss the matter with those two, the down judge as well as the sideline official. I mean, it just did not make any sense. That whole thing was just very suspect, and both of those guys were from California, if I'm not mistaken, right? Cavaletto and Turner, right? Why would you even have that hint or possibility of impropriety, NFL, to have somebody from California officiating this game? That did not make any sense. Why didn't they officiate the Chiefs game? Think about that, Bob.
There are so many things to build into the conspiracy theorists of the world. And that's a big one, the one that you just mentioned. Well, the numerous ones you just mentioned. The everything that happened on the field, not only during that pass interference that wasn't flagged, pass interference and helmet to helmet that wasn't flagged on the Roby Coleman on Tommy Lee Lewis, but also numerous calls throughout the game.
Well, also remember Drew Brees, the interception. Drew Brees was hit in the face by Fowler, and why wasn't that called? And you want to protect the quarterback, and they had a phantom call in the NFC Championship game against the Chiefs. Why wasn't Fowler's hit called, and the head referee was right there to witness that?
Yeah.
Tell me, why wasn't that called?
I wish I did have an answer for you. And Kyle, I don't know if you read it, or listeners, if you haven't read it, and there's numerous articles, but I'll be a little bit self-serving. I published an article through Canal Street Chronicles that we released on Tuesday. The title of the article is Thievery Robs Saints of NFC Championship. And I pointed out through the article not only the plays that you mentioned, but other ones as well. You bring up great points about part of the officiating crew being from the Los Angeles area, and why would you, NFL? Why would you even open yourselves up to that? There is just all kinds of, and you're right. The hit on Breeze, when supposedly a league that likes to say that they're concerned about player safety. I say with a silent snicker. If they're good, they'll protect the quarterbacks, certain ones, and I think that we see evidence of that during the regular season over and over and over again. And I make reference of that too in the article. Now, I never mention the certain ones, but if you're a follower of the NFL, I don't think that there'll be too many differences if we all made a list of who those certain players or certain teams or certain owners are. I think that we'll all have a pretty short list, and I think most of them will be similar. And that's a shame, because again, I wish we didn't have to. It would have sucked if the Saints lost, no matter what. But I would much rather talk about, football, especially this time of year when it's supposed to be the fun time of year. Emotions run high and low, up and down for a reason, because there is just so much at stake. And that is precisely why I have a problem with what happened on Sunday, because there is just so much at stake. I realize, we could talk about holding, and we could talk about, certain pass interference penalties. We could even talk about, face masks that did or did not happen, whether it was a brush against the helmet or whether it was a legitimate face mask or hit to the head. The bottom line is the rules are there for a reason. And some things are just not open for interpretation. Don't give me bang, bang play. Don't give me, you didn't see this when, film shows that you were, that you had two members of the officiating crew staring right at it just feet away. These players are the best of the best. And I don't think that it is out of the question for us to expect the best of the best from the officiating crew too. Are they going to make mistakes, the so-called human error factor? Yeah, of course. I'm not discounting that. I am saying when a play happens right in front of you that is so blatantly obvious that the training films of young beginning officials are going to see it, that's when you throw the flag. And they didn't. It's on them, and shame on the NFL, for not only condoning, and I will say condone, because they did not come out with a statement. The different league enforcements have basically allowed the referees to have control of any game that they want, any game that is played. And as a result, every single one of us have feared this for years, that the result of a championship game would come down to the black and white stripes. And that's exactly what happened. Whether it went for your team or against your team is almost irrelevant. Unfortunately, it went against our team, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really irrelevant because it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, well, let me play the flip side as well. It should not have happened, but our team should not have allowed themselves to be placed in that position as well. Now, people may be angry with me from saying this and may say that I have no faith. I'm a homer for being politically correct or whatever. But the bottom line, we had the game. Early, we had the game. It should have been 21-0 up there. It should have never been 13-0. It should have never been that. When we drove the ball, we should have scored 7 points. Arnold should have caught the football that time as well. You can see that measure, the 4 points right there. And I heard it through the spirit of the professor. He when he dropped that ball, I said those 4 points are going to come back to haunt us. I said it right then and there. And but he's been dropping balls all season long, man. He hasn't learned how to snatch a ball out the air, and I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago, right? The things that guys, Justin Hardy, he can't be let off the hook as well. You have sat in numerous of special teams meetings. You knew that Heckler had the propensity to be able to pull that ball and throw it for a first down or even run it for a first down. You knew this in your scouting report. I'm pretty sure Westhoff had it in the report. I'm pretty sure he told you guys, don't leave that man alone. And what did Hardy do? He bailed. Like Sam Shields was that fast that he couldn't keep up with him. I was, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm thinking, this is a fake punt. Clear as day. And what happens? They knew what Hardy was going to do because he always has that propensity of leaving the guy. Even in the earlier game, remember? I'm just thinking, man, it's the look, Bob, what separates us having the second most winningest tandem between Breeze and Peyton versus the first most winningest tandem with Belichick and Brady is the team as a whole must pay attention to details.
Yeah.
Okay? That was a detail right there that anybody in their right mind should have known. Hardy, stay with your man. Closely with your man. Do not let that man get beyond you. Do not bail on the fake punt, the possibility of the fake punt. Everybody should have known that, man. But what did he do? What did he do? Okay? So there are a couple, we can go on and on, but Bob, I just needed to say that. We just do not pay attention to the details the way we should have. That's clear and evident with this team. And that's why New England continues to win and the rest of the league doesn't.
Yeah, and the Saints did leave a number of missed opportunities on the field. You're right. The game should have been 21-0 early. And I realize our once former great coach, Jim Mora, and his famous coulda, woulda, shouldas. But really, the coulda, woulda, shoulda is what loses you games. The Saints, I began to get a feeling of dread when Demario Davis intercepted Jared Goff on the Rams' first possession with the Saints already up 3-0. The Saints had the ball at the Rams' 16-yard line. And I think 3 plays netted them about 4 yards, and they had to settle for a field goal. Now, points are obviously at a premium when you're playing in a championship game like this, but it's opportunities like that. When you're given the ball in your opponent's red zone, you have to put 7 on the board. And Sean Payton will be the first to tell you that. the Saints were not able to run the ball with any effectiveness whatsoever on the afternoon. Now, they kept the Rams defense honest because they still attempted 22, 24 runs. So the threat was there, but they didn't get any yardage whatsoever. I think if they averaged 3 yards a carry during the game, they're lucky, because I know it wasn't any more than that. This is the Saints offense that rolled up about 150 yards on the ground against the Rams less than 2 months before. So the inability to run the ball put extra pressure on the Saints passing game to make something happen. And once again, we knew that the Rams were going to concentrate on Michael Thomas and do what they could to shut him down. And they did a nice job. Mike had, I think, 4 catches for 50, maybe 60 yards. Certainly nothing, a drop in the bucket compared to what he had in the November game against them. So the Rams did their job against Thomas to take him out of the equation. It was the Saints wideouts that, once again, could not get any consistent separation or could not make consistent plays in the open field. Now, it was very, very clear that, once again, the Rams defense could not stay with Alvin Kamara. Kamara had 11 catches for about 95, 96 yards. So he was their offensive star on the afternoon, no question about that. And then defensively, I thought New Orleans played a very good defensive football game against a very good Los Angeles offense. But 2 things stuck out to me. 3 things. We knew the absence of Sheldon Rankins in the middle would hurt them a little bit. They still played nice run defense, but they could not get any interior pressure on Goff, which kind of left the Saints secondary hang out to dry on a couple of occasions. Now, the New Orleans secondary, the cornerbacks in particular, I thought played pretty well in the afternoon. I realized Cooks had over 100 yards receiving. But a lot of that was just due to the defensive front not being able to get much significant pressure on Goff. But the defense gave up. 2 things stood out to me about the defense. They gave up a touchdown drive to end the first half. And then, of course, they let the Rams get in position for the game-tying field goal on a 2-minute drive to end the game. That's 2-minute failures by your defense at the end of each half. You can't win a championship when you give up points late in the half. You just can't.
Bob,
we've seen that. Yes, sir.
Look, man. Dennis Allen called the last 2 minutes and even into overtime. That was the worst play calling he's done this season, in my opinion. Okay? Why do I say that? You saw Goff was picking up the blitz. Was it the last drive they had right before the Saints got the ball back? He was picking up the blitz. He was converting. Even when Jordan or whomever would get to Goff, spin him around, he was making the plays. Call off the blitz. The way you win against Goff was how you were winning early in the game. You flood the zones. You flood the zones with your players. You allow that. Look, if one of your 4 guys get to him, great. That's a win. If you're able to just affect him and put some pressure on his face, that's a win. But Goff makes his mistakes throwing into the zones where there's more than one person. He's not accounting for that variable. That's where the Bears, I believe, when they beat him, right, took advantage of him. That's how you win. That's how we were winning that first 58 minutes. Come on. I'm just, let's be honest, guys. I was like, why do they keep calling the blitz? They're picking up the blitz. What's his name? Anderson picked them up very well, those blitz. And you have to account for his veteran leadership there. He really did a good job picking up the blitz. Goff did a good job handling the blitz. Okay? In essence, he outplayed Breeze when it came to handling the blitz this game. Okay, but the Saints made the mistake not only with the blitz, they made the mistake by did Cooks beat, was it PJ on that play to get him down to the goal, near the goal line? Right
almost positive it was. I don't have. Okay. I don't have the game.
Why wasn't Lattimore on him? That was the bewildering part to me. Lattimore was really handling the assignment with Cooks all game long. Why at that instance would he get off of him? That's what I could not understand. Woods was not really effective that whole game. That's who I thought was going to really give us some trouble, man. Even though he did have 33 yards and 10, he was targeted 10 times, only had 6 receptions for 33 yards. He was not as effective. Really, Goff didn't have one of those super duper games. He had 297 yards, but if it were not for Reynolds and Cooks, he was pedestrian. He was pedestrian.
And they clearly, as most opponents do, he clearly went after P.J. Williams whenever it was possible, and that's you brought up Reynolds. He had a heck of a game because in large part when the Saints did go to man coverage, which was often, Reynolds and P.J. Williams were the ones that matched up. Which from a schematic point, that makes sense if you're Dennis Allen, because the Rams' top 2 wideouts coming into the game are Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. So it would, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize, okay, I want my guys, I want Marshawn Lattimore and Eli Apple on Woods and Cooks whenever possible. So that's why opponents week in and week out would target P.J. Williams. And a lot of times, like I said, Reynolds was the one that drew PJ's assignment, and I'm almost positive on that deeper play to Cooks or at the end of the game that PJ was in coverage on that one as well.
Yeah. Well, look, man, I'm proud of the team and how they responded all year long. I just thought even that last drive, I thought our defense were going to make some sort of play. I just had that feeling they're going to make a play to stop this. They did not. And when he first threw the ball to Cooks, I think that was the first long pass, right? And I'm looking at Apple I think Apple was playing him at that time. I was like, how in the world do you give up that? How do you give that up, man? And I don't know, but sometimes you wonder where was the leadership coming from, man, in that huddle. I don't know what was being said and not being said. Even let's take it back to the 2 minutes when we had the football, right? I know Breeze is the captain and he's, hey, this is what we're going to do here. But you got the ball, on 13-yard line? Hey, yep. Man, he didn't have to throw the football. He should have told every one of these linemen, this is our moment to dominate, to ram this ball down the Rams' throat. And if you can't outblock Darnold or whoever at this time, shame on you, Pete, or whomever. And if y'all know Pete was still having some trouble, why don't you put Tom in the game or somebody? That's what I'm talking about. The coaching was an issue there, man. The coaching was the issue. Now, Kyle, I can't believe you're saying this. Okay, yeah. It has to be said, guys. We have always seen this 2011. Coaching was the issue. Hey, seconds left on the clock, divisional round. You can win this football game. Hey, watch Vernon Davis. That's their weapon. What do you need to say? What more do you need to say? Why would you leave him one-on-one with a guy who is a hybrid cornerback safety? You understand where I'm coming from? Certain things in certain situations are not being coached. And that's why Belichick does a greater job in preparing the guys for situations. He does better with lesser talent than anybody else because he prepares lesser talent during critical times to respond to the situation that is posed upon you. They recall that teaching, yes, not just coaching, but teaching, and that's how they respond, and they consistently get back to the championship game, get back to the Super Bowl, and give themselves a chance to get another ring. Okay?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. And yeah, hey, and I know we've been advertising all week that our friend Jim Everett was going to join us. Unfortunately, Jim couldn't join us live, but he did sit down with me earlier this afternoon and tape an interview for us to play. Because I mean, the guy gives some great insight. Heck, he was at this level. His team lost an NFC Championship game. As we know, he had many great years with the Rams and a few spectacular years with the Saints. And you and I know Kyle personally, from him talking to us, that he was torn for this game. He was going to feel happy for whoever won, but also feel heartbreak for whoever lost. So he gave some nice insight because as we know, as we're sitting here pointing it out now, it is the little things that will win or lose you a championship game. So he gave some great insight. Are we ready for that?
Yeah, let's pull it up.
Okay.
Oh, and I am looking at the sheet. It was P.J. Williams on Brandon Cooks for 36 yards with 48 seconds left in the game in that half.
So of course it was P.J.
And unfortunately, what happens to P.J. this morning?
Yeah, and I think that sealed his ticket out of town because he is an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah. Okay, here we go with Jim.
This call is being recorded.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm doing pretty darn good. Sorry for the delay.
Oh, that's not a big deal. I appreciate you taking some time out and juggling your schedule around for me.
Oh, no, this is good. I know, shoot, you guys, everyone's been through a lot, so I'm ready when you are, for God's sake.
Okay. We'll try to buzz this through pretty quick so you can get to dinner and your family. You got ready?
I am ready, Bob.
Okay. This is Bob Rose with the Bayou Blitz and Canal Street Chronicles, and I am honored to be joined by former New Orleans Saints and Los Angeles Rams great quarterback Jim Everett. How are you this afternoon, Jim?
Bob, I'm doing wonderful, thank you. I know that city has been through holy terror over this last championship game, and I mean, just some crazy stuff.
Yeah, indeed. And you know what? First of all, it's a shame, and we'll get to the elephant in the room in a minute. It's a shame that kind of conversation has to take place between fan bases and the league and, of course, social media. I mean, these were two terrific teams, and they both played their hearts out. Two of the best teams in the NFL and played one hell of a game, and it came down to what it came down to.
Well, it did. I mean, there's a lot of things that it came down to, Bob. I mean, if you look at all the four contenders, I'm talking AFC and NFC, and we'll just pull out from 30,000 feet for a second. I mean, talking about terrific football. I mean, I don't remember two championship games ever being played by anyone such quality of football, but such good teams. I mean, Brady and Breeze and the young guys, Mahomes and golf and all the different things that are going on, the weapons and and the tactical nature of each one of the teams, I thought it was just fantastic football. I know the people of New Orleans aren't, ecstatic on how everything turned out, but it's just an NFL fan in general watching the competition and the level and the sophistication that was going into each one of the things was just fabulous from a kind of a historian view of it.
Yeah, it really was. And I don't think too many people can deny that these were the best 4 teams left standing. What was really an exciting NFL season. And I'm only going to ask the one question about this topic. Do you have anything to say about the game's officiating, either in general or the specific NFC Championship game?
I agree with the people of New Orleans that the officiating was outright horrid. So let me preface this. I've been in championship games before, and the referees have a tendency to sit on their flag. And they've done it year in and year out. They sit on their flag enough that the teams, and I actually talked to some of our local guys here with the Rams about that fact before the game, that, you can push the limits in this game. And that's absolutely the truth, and people know that playing it, and don't think the Patriots don't know that, because they're not going to call the holding foul. They're not going to call the ticky-tack foul. They don't want refereeing changing the nature of what the game is. So with that said, yes, the most obvious penalty missed for the whole game was the one with the camera was on. But if you go back to the game film, there was at least 10, if not 15, other penalties not called. Were they on right center stage? No, they weren't. So if we go back and look at Aaron Donald, he's being held almost every other play. You see face masks. You see other blatant penalties that could have been called PI that were not. But the fact that it came down to that last one that was most obvious. But if you look at all the other, I think each team had over 60 plays. There was 120 plays. There was quite a few fouls not called all game long. And, it's unfortunate that last one was so friggin' obvious. But the fact is that was the theme of the championship game. You look at the Patriots and the Chiefs game. There was multiple fouls called. There were some that were called, a lot of them not. I haven't broken down the film on that one to be able to go exactly how many were missed. But in championship games, and Drew Brees knows this, that you push the limits. On the flip side, New Orleans had chances, and I'll go. They had chances to snuff the Rams out early. They had opportunities in overtime to score their points and beyond. They didn't do it, and we can blame the refs. We can blame a bunch of different things in life. We can blame our wives, our ex-wives, our kids. We can point fingers, but the last one, when we point a finger, there's 3 other fingers pointing back at us. What could we have done to take care of our job that it wouldn't have to come down to a zebra? And that's what I look at. And I'm like, Boomer Esiason can say all he wants and this and that, and everyone can play it. I get it. But when you have a job to get done, you get it done, or you don't. And I'm not saying that one wasn't blatant. I'm not saying it's not wrong, or it was wrong. I'm just saying there were 15 other ones too. So I don't know how to say it. It's unfortunate that it comes down to that, but championship week, Super Bowls are called closer. Championship week is notoriously known that the refs sit on the flag.
Well, and you mentioned a couple of missed opportunities that the Saints had. And in a game of this magnitude, those things are always enlarged to a great degree. As most know, Los Angeles fell behind 13-0. I mean, New Orleans came out of the gate roaring. They looked great. What did the Rams do to kind of turn the tide and sort of claw their way back into that game?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think there was a couple, I don't think Todd Gurley was having let's look exactly what the Rams were doing. Todd Gurley on offense wasn't a real factor. It wasn't until they really got CJ involved. And then kind of figured out what they were doing defensively, because they were bringing pressure and this and that. But it wasn't until the fourth where they started, doing those naked boosts, which I thought Golf was going to get sacked on, but somehow he got rid of the ball and it made positive plays. So there were some outstanding plays on both sides of the ball. But I just think that they didn't let Thomas beat them for easy touchdowns like, game one, and it wasn't, when the track meet. So I think having Talib there made a little bit of difference. But, as far as I think they just settled down, that turnover really had, but they didn't let them score inside the 20. I think it could have been 21-0 easily. Yeah. And it wasn't. It was only 13. So I think that was a big bullet dodged. And I think once the Saints really go back and go through their film work, and I understand the emotional part of it. I get it, and I empathize with it. But once they go back and they really self-reflect on where could we have taken care of this game, that first half they could easily been up 21-0.
Yeah, no question. And I said some similar things, especially after that Demario Davis interception on the Rams' first possession that put them right on the doorstep. So the Saints have had two really tough playoff losses in a row. Still an extremely young roster, but now seasoned with good postseason experience. What do you see on this team? What do they need to do from a roster aspect to finally break down that championship door?
Well, I think by far the talent evaluation for the New Orleans Saints is maybe number one in the league. I mean, the guys that they keep bringing in are contributors. They're, I think they're doing just a heck of a job making sure the team is loaded with talent. I think the talent translating into Super Bowls is it's a little bit more like a chemistry set where you got to mix this with a little bit of that, a little bit, and that's, the only one who seems to be the chemistry expert right now is the Patriots. So I think that's a little bit of the magic part of it. I think they're good on defense. I think they needed a pass rush. I think they got some of that. I think they still need to make sure that they're, not getting 30-some points scored on them. I think that's always a key thing. But today's offenses, that's a tough way to go. I mean, you got to love the running backs. The offensive line played well. Drew Brees is playing well. I'm going to tell you, and I'll step out on a limb here. I thought in the draft last year, and this is just my own opinion, but when they moved up in the draft, and I know they need a pass rusher, I thought they were getting Lamar. I really did. And I think Drew plays so well with almost 75% completion rate. At some point, they're going to have to address the young quarterback. And I like Hill, and I like his play, and I like Bridgewater backing up. But at some point in time, I thought maybe 5 years from now we'll look back and go, should we have really gotten Lamar? That dude could play.
Did you see a little bit of a decline in Drew's play down the stretch this year? I thought I noticed it personally in his deep ball a little bit. But did anything really stand out to you?
Well, let's go back. I mean, he's not 21. He's closer to 41. So I think you saw the same thing with Peyton Manning. I don't know if it's his visual. I mean, I don't think the ball just pops out of there. I mean, a guy who seems to continue to have pop right now is Tom Brady. I mean, his ball seems to really is on the money. But as far as his decision making, as far as stuff, I said a little similar thing last year, but I think Drew had a bad ankle at the time when he came out to LA and played. I didn't see the pop on his ball, but I thought that was mainly because he couldn't drive with his lower body. He does such a great job with his physical self. He's doing everything he possibly can. Is his arm like when he left Purdue? No, but he's so dang smart. He's so cagey. You love that. But I think at some point it does play with, how much you can vertically stretch the team. But he does such a good job with the ball, 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Jim, your 1989 LA Rams team advanced to the NFC Championship. Unfortunately, you came up a little bit short, losing in San Francisco. But you guys have one of the most talented teams in the league that year. A, was that the toughest loss of your career? And B, how did you and your squad around you go about the recovering process right afterward?
Well, it's tough. I mean, when you lose, I mean, everyone wants to hit the explode button. So, I mean, like, what do we got wrong? What do we got wrong? So much emphasis on what do we got wrong? What do we got to do right? You know, and you might be off like 0.05%. Some teams will, fire a coach. Look at Kansas City, for example. Here's a team knocking on the door. They got a lot of things right. The first thing they do when they have their, championship losses, they fire their defense coordinator. I mean, I'm not saying that's not the right thing for Kansas City to do. I'm just saying that's the normal human reaction is we got to make a big change. And sometimes, like what we went through, we had to play the San Francisco 49ers in our championship game. That was the third time that year we had to play them. And I believe we beat them 2 times before. So to beat a team 3 times, and you look at New Orleans, they had to play Philly, play them twice. Much tighter game the second time. They beat the Rams, had to play the Rams again. And that's hard to beat an NFL team 2 times in a row, more or less 3. So we, and 49ers were damn good back in those days, and so that was our Achilles heel. We had to battle San Francisco to even be recognized, and that was a tough road to go with Joe Montana and Steve Young, but and all the other guys, especially Ronnie Lott on our side. So I don't think the Saints are far off. I don't see them, making major wholesale changes. I think there's going to be dial-in things that they, can do better. I think their defense is good. I think you're always, one of the things that you're missing or missed during the Ram game for sure was that interior defensive line pressure because you had injury. I think you guys are down to the 3rd tight end because of the concussion and Watson. So, I mean, those things, they changed the chemistry set, and it just wasn't the same as when you have your starter in there. And there's no other 2 ways to put it. And it's unfortunate, but injuries are a part of the thing, but I think you're going to need to get a younger, talented tight end would be on my Christmas wish list.
Yeah, for sure. And I obviously we're going to pretty soon here start breaking down what everybody needs in the off season, and they always tease draft and free agency breakdowns. But for now, there are 2 teams left standing, and we do want to congratulate the Los Angeles Rams and the New England Patriots. LA's got to be going crazy out there. I know they were excited by the return of the Rams. How is the community taking this championship?
Oh my gosh, it's been. I was trying to describe that to one of their fans, and they were trying to say, well, you guys didn't have football for 21 years, but we had Hurricane Katrina. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's important. That was catastrophic. I get it. Having NFL not here for 21 years does not match Katrina. You got it. But the fact is that not having an NFL team, and New Orleans hadn't had a chance to experience that, but we did out in Los Angeles. And then to have basically our home team come home was kind of big. And it was big for the community. And this is where I live. And it was, it was tough the first year because of success, or the lack of success. And, but it was, if you've ever watched or moved a home or moved a business or anything like that, I was seeing these guys, they're working out of trailers. They were living out of hotels. It was quite chaotic that first year. And then they come in and then they bring in McVay and then they start putting in the system. They get more permanent housing. They get, facilities. The idea of this, $4 billion, 300-acre project is being built to renovate old Inglewood. They create jobs, the whole thing. It's such a macroeconomic thing that it's right there by the airport. I mean, it's big, guys. I don't know how to say it, Bob, but it's affected a lot of people from A to Z in this area.
And that's great. And listen, I know you're going to be asked hundreds of times in the next 2 weeks. Do you have any early Super Bowl predictions for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to, again, he's got the the oldest quarterback ever against the youngest quarterback ever in a Super Bowl, which I think will bring out. I just can't wait for the memes on Twitter on this one. So, baby face versus grandpa. So here we go. I do like the Rams, of course. I think the Patriots. I don't know. Hopefully, people in Louisiana would agree. They've won enough of their Super Bowls. I'd like to see it distributed a little bit around. And I know that if New Orleans would have won the game, I know the state of California would be supporting New Orleans to beat the Patriots. So I just would like to see that the NFC come back and take this thing, and that would be really huge around here. But I see a higher scoring game though. I really do, and hopefully the Rams on top.
Well, and like we said, listen, I agree with you, and I've seen it, and much to a little bit of my shame, I've been a little bit of a part of it. But listen, the Los Angeles Rams, they earned this championship. They fought hard. Them and the Saints went toe to toe for 60 plus minutes. You knew going into the game that whatever team came out, it would have earned that championship. So listen, Saints fans, there isn't going to be an asterisk by this. They aren't going to replay the game. The Los Angeles Rams are NFC champion. They had one.
It took a 57-yard field goal to get that thing where it was, and that's not a gimme by any means. So there was some extra effort done by a lot of people. I know we want to talk about the Zebras, but the kid that Zerline hitting the 57-yarder, if it would have been the other way, that's just one hell of a kick.
Well, and I know, and I talked to you a little bit in the week leading up to this game, and I realized that you were torn. These are your two home teams. This was like you rooting for one relative against another. So I imagine I could picture you fidgeting in your seat watching this game. For every single minute.
I do. These are my two favorite NFL teams. And there was no doubt, and I couldn't have picked the better two teams. Because they're just, I think they're developing. Their head offices are on the right track. I think the young talent is on the right track. Their offensive and defensive schemes are on track. They're competitive. They've got guys that are very likable. And then when they had to play each other, you're right, Bob. It was, it's like, how do I describe myself as a polygamist and having two wives here? But I love them both. But at the end of the day, it's like, all right, well, one of them has to win, and that's where it goes. And I love the Rams, and I know people don't understand. I love the Saints, and I know people don't get that they always want you to have just that one team. But I really love them both, and it's fortunate they got to play each other. It's unfortunate that one had to lose.
But I tell you what, with the way both of these rosters are built, and both of these coaching staffs are, this could have only been the first round of a few postseason battles between these two teams, and we could only get so lucky.
I think the playoffs are consistently going to be going through New Orleans. They're consistently going to be going through Los Angeles. Remember back in the day when I was growing up, it was always Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Cowboys, or whatever it might be. Well, I think for years to come, these guys are in good hands.
Yeah, no question. And we could all be so lucky to see these two teams lock on the field a few more times. I know as a Saints fan, Jim, I am so grateful for not only everything that you gave us on the field, but everything you've given us off the field then and now. We want to thank you for your friendship and obviously your analysis.
Well, thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, I've never met as good as people around the nation as the people from New Orleans. I swear to God. It's I'm a Catholic boy. I just think that the folks there are absolutely the best. They are the best fan base ever. And the fact is, I told Jared Goff before this game, I go, you're not going to be able to hear yourself think. And the people of New Orleans proved me right. As they couldn't. They couldn't hear. They couldn't hear. That was so loud. That was unbelievable. I mean, kudos to the 12th man right there.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, again, you've been in that position. How tough is it? Is it a lot tougher to win on the road in a playoff game than it is a regular season game, or you try to keep it business as usual?
Well, you try to. It's another game. I mean, I think that in your mindset, but it's kind of like comparing high school to college. It's the same game, but the speed's faster. And then all of a sudden, college to pro, same game, but the speed's faster when you get there. Same thing with the regular season. Once you get the playoff, it's a whole different speed. You don't have guys taking any playoffs. You don't have guys hurt. You're seeing their best guys at the top of their game, knowing they're on center stage. It's kind of like Monday Night Football on speed. It's like you're going to get the best from the best, and you got it, and it's do or die. So you're seeing every one of these guys. Every one of the guys on the lineup has been the best competitor at their school for years. And you're getting the best of the best playing their best. And so that's what this whole thing's about. And, crowning the champion. And it's, how the Patriots have over the years continued to play at that level. But this is the ultimate thing that every kid, I remember when I was 5 years old, I had Lenny Dawson was my hero. And Lenny Dawson won a championship for the Kansas City Chiefs. And
another Purdue quarterback.
So the Purdue guy actually recruited me from Purdue. So don't think that didn't have when I'm sitting at Purdue University and Purdue versus IU basketball game with Lenny Dawson, my hero, and they're recruiting me. That may have had some effect on me.
Wow. Yeah, a little.
But it's what the game's all about. It's kind of what life's all about. It's about you go to work every day, but this is one of those days where you have a lot on the line, and how do you handle it? You gotta maintain your composure. You gotta try to put yourself in the right place that you can focus, but yet be present in the moment and get the best out of you. And some guys can excel at that. Some guys have trouble dealing with it. You hope that if you don't deal with it well, that you have another opportunity to try so you can, conquer it. And I think that's what Todd Gurley is going to go through a little bit right now, is because I think against the New Orleans Saints, Todd Gurley really fell flat, and it was on him. I don't know if it's his knee or whatever. I don't think it's that big a story right now, but I think it will turn into one about, which Todd Gurley is going to show up for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can see the same thing, and they're going to need all hands on deck to beat a battle-tested Patriot team. C.J. Anderson has played terrific, but Todd Gurley is just on another level of NFL backs right now.
Well, and I think if New Orleans has the nose tackle, Jenkins, then I think that he helps shut down C.J., and that eliminates a lot of those factors. And it was unfortunate that was one of the cases that wasn't there, but they could have used another presence in the middle.
Yeah, no question. Well, Jim, I know you got to get back to your family. We do appreciate you taking a few minutes with us, ladies and gentlemen. This is former Saints and Rams great Jim Everett. Jim, I hope we can do this again soon, maybe in the off season.
Well, let's do it. I'd love to see. I'll be following the Saints close because I love to see who they draft. I love to see how they draft, and they've done a fantastic job. And again, I'm a fan, and if I get down that way, Bob, I'll look you up.
Definitely.
And so until then, it'll be a week and a half. I'll be in Atlanta and checking out that whole Super Bowl scene. So expecting chaos and all sorts of stuff, and can't wait for it.
Well, enjoy the big game, my friend. And we thank you for everything. But we will talk to you soon. All right.
And at the end, my heart goes out with all the people of New Orleans. It's just a tough way to end such a fabulous season. I get it.
Well, they'll both be back, right?
All right. They will be. It'll be years of battles. It'll be fun. Bob, thanks for having me on, buddy.
Take care, Jim. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Good night.
Okay, Bob?
Yes, sir.
All right, that was good. Jim said some things that we've been saying and thinking as well. And, look, I've been going through the playbook over and over and over and over. And, not only did we have our chances, even in that overtime after Drew Brees threw that interception, Saints could have limited him by at least another 3 or 4 yards and made it a 61 yarder or something to that nature. It could have put a little bit more pressure on them, But that pass from Goff to Higbee, that tight end, and they gave up that 6 yards right there. That's what really kind of sealed the deal for them to be able to get into field goal position, man. So, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And he's right about that.
Yeah.
And people are right about it. Saints, look, you've got to be able to take control. You were at home. You had the first half. You were doing what you needed to do. You just cannot let up. And I think, that PJ or whomever, Marcus Williams also, guys, and I'm going to say this, and people may not like to hear this, but our safeties really did not do us any justice all season long. Marcus Williams was really a non-factor this 2018 season. Remember, a lot of people thought he was going to rebound and have a great season. I think he had, only 1 interception all season? Kurt Coleman.
1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, Kurt Coleman was – where was he?
He was a waste of a roster space is what he was.
Yeah, and Von Bell, man, I'm telling you, Von Bell had his best season ever. I really was impressed how he rebounded because, remember, they benched him, right? And they would only play him in situational slots here and there. But Von Bell really performed very well. I just keep playing them like that, I would say. But Williams has to do a better job, man. He has to do a better job. Or they need to be able to get at least 2 new safeties, push him in camp or whatever, to really to put something out there. And, I got to say this about what Jim said about the loss of Josh Hill. I think that played a major part in not freeing up Alvin Kamara. Remember, Sue started playing the defensive inside and chipping Alvin Kamara coming off. But if we had Josh Hill or even Ben Watson, you remember Ben played very well that first game as well.
Yeah.
Those two not having their presence out there really was a factor, man. And I know Griffin did as well as he could. I'm just wondering, could they have done more? But the last thing I'm going to say, man, Drew Brees, he shouldn't have thrown that ball. I don't care if Fowler's right in his face or whatever. He should not have thrown that football, man. Take the sack. That was one of those times. It was second down. Take the sack. And I know it would have put us second and longer. Well, then you're just going to have to trust. You could try to pick it up on that third down, or you just have to trust that your boys are going to be able to shut them down with field position, But you cannot throw that football in the middle of the field like you did in Minnesota. You shouldn't have thrown it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen Drew has not made a lot of mistakes through his career, but when he has, it's often in a situation exactly like that. Look, he's a consummate competitor, and he's trying to make a play for his team, but that was an occasion where he tried to force something into happening. and as a result, made a mistake. Now, I never did see definitive evidence whether the ball was tipped or whether it was just popped straight up because of it. Because he was trying.
It wasn't tipped, Bob.
Okay.
His arm was hit by Fowler.
Okay.
So when he was going to follow through, Fowler just came in, had a great play, hit him on his arm, and then hit him in his face. But the situation like that, man, you just can't take a chance and throw that football. And I would have thought a similar look, Drew's had same situations like that against San Francisco when he threw those picks in the Superdome that time, where he had like 3 or 4 picks that one game. When the 49ers were coming after him pretty hard, those linebackers back then. He's had situations through his years, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not faced with a 200 and plus guy coming down the pipe and ready to blast on me, but I'm not. I just have to think it would have been better to serve the whole team, not to try to force a ball into coverage like that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and like we said earlier in the show, that was just one of a handful of missed, or in that case botched, opportunities that the Saints either missed or gave an easier opportunity to the Rams. And this loss is gonna hurt. I can't even say for quite some time. It's gonna hurt forever. We all sit here and still recount recent memories, either of last year's Minnesota or 2011 in San Francisco, 2010 in Seattle, or the Mora team's playoff failures. Heck, we've had guests on the show, talk about the team's near misses, when they looked like they were building a good team in the late 70s. This goes right up there, if not at the top of the list, very near it, because this team was a bona fide Super Bowl caliber team all year long. They played against another Super Bowl caliber team. I think the Rams and the Saints were on a collision course all year long. And whether the Patriots beat the Rams in the Super Bowl or not remains to be seen. But for the majority of the year, the consensus top 2 teams, as far as complete rosters, were the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams. The Saints for a variety of reasons. Officiating, I think we both agree, is at the top of the list. But we've also given another couple reasons. And when this pain, and Jim pointed it out too, as a player, those Saints players are pissed too. More so than us. I mean, it's their rings we're talking about. When this anger settles, when they work through that a little bit, and start to get the work off in the off season with an eye towards next year, you're right. They're gonna look at the film and they're gonna say, well, if we wouldn't have made this play, or if we would have taken advantage of that opportunity. We saw how focused this team was coming out for the 2018 season. And they kept that razor sharp focus the majority of the year. There weren't rally cries like, remember Minnesota, but inside that locker room, inside those players' heads, they knew what it took to take the next step after the Minnesota loss. And this roster, barring any major shakeup, and I don't think that'll happen, this roster is coming back nearly fully intact with that same kind of mindset. Okay, well, we got to the next level. What do we have to do to get to the top level? Because that's literally, they were just a play or 2 away. If they make any one of those plays that you and I have run down tonight, or if even one of those calls went in their favor, we would be talking about, doing a preview for the Rams the Saints versus the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That's all it takes at the NFL level. And, these guys are smart. These guys are competitors, and Lord knows they're hardworking. So I do expect a very focused off season. They're not going to dwell on this, at least to the point where it, prohibits them from taking that next step. This team is built for a long championship run.
Yeah, well, we shall see. Typically, guys, when you lose in the NFC Championship or AFC Championship games, you usually don't rebound that fast. Hope that's not the case for our boys. And I know I got to be going pretty soon here, Bob. The things I'm just going to leave the Who Dat Nation with is enjoy the ride. Enjoy what you see. I grew up where we didn't have any of the measured success that you're seeing currently with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. I know you said something to the question to Jim, did you see a decline in Drew Brees' arm or his play or whatever? That may be the case. And just like the defense had to bail Peyton Manning out and win that Super Bowl against Carolina for them, you still have a guy that you can trust. You still have a guy that you know who is a fierce competitor in Drew. And you have a guy that's well prepared and elevates the play of the guys around him. So I would still love to have Drew Brees any day. My fear, my prayer is really my prayer more than fear, I should say, is that I really would like to see Drew get that opportunity because he's such a good person, good family man. From what I've seen, he's a good person over the years of being here in New Orleans and just being a great representative around the league. I just would like to see him do a great thing, and what struck me more than the game itself, hours after taking all the questions and fielding all the answers, and to go back out on that field after the game to spend time with his son, to help him hold the ball and to help him kick field goals. That was, if you don't see that picture, guys, go to Twitter, Instagram, wherever you see that. You see a man who is inspired by his own family, and that spoke volumes to me. That made me want him to get back to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl more than anything else, than the play he played on the field, because that showed me he has a good heart, and it's rare to find superstars with good hearts.
Yeah, and this team seems full of them. Jim pointed out that it's a roster full of very likable guys that just makes you want to root for them that much more. But it also makes these kind of losses hurt a little bit more because we almost feel, certainly not on their level. Let's not pretend, but we do feel their pain. Cam Jordan, Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, the guys, the veterans that took this really hard because they've been through the years of battles. And the younger guys, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore, et cetera. These guys who are just, they keep knocking at this championship door in their first couple of seasons and just come up painfully and frustratingly short. It makes you want to root for them all the more, because remember, Who Dat Nation, I know we're all hurting, we're all disappointed, we're all frustrated, we're all angry, and we have a right to feel all those things. They feel it a lot worse than we do, and we've said all year that we're one big happy family, with the key words being one, and family. We got to ride through this, storm together, with our team. I know, I follow social media pretty close. You and I have to, because it's the nature of our jobs. And nobody is really turning on the Saints, team, players, or organization, which I'm happy to see. But remember that the anger does have to die down at some point. Nobody's saying forget it, but we know our team. We know our boys are going to go back to work and work hard, and they're counting on our support to be there with them. For them to be successful, they cannot dwell in this anger. So if we're going to be right there with them, we have to let ours subside a little bit too. Having said that, I've decided I'm going to be pissed off until the Super Bowl. So give me that. But hey, they'll bounce back. We know this team. We know this group. They're resilient. They'll bounce back.
Yeah, well, they don't look like my dad would say. You don't have no choice, son.
Yeah.
When someone fights you, you fight harder. When someone outthinks you, you get them back by outthinking them harder and being smarter. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things.
I've coached some great athletes and great teams too in my time, and we had a few painful losses at the championship level ourselves. Again, be it individual or as a team. And I would always sit down with them and, usually say the same thing. It's like, okay, congratulations, because you did what it took to get here. Now use this as a learning experience to take the next level. You know what it took to get here. As a result, you know what it takes to get further. Use it.
Right. Exactly. All right, guys. Bob, good stuff again. Tell people how they can follow you on social media.
And we, of course, want to thank our good friend Jim Everett again for taking the time to join us. Jim, I know you're going to be in Atlanta, so I hope you enjoy every minute. It's a shame we can't be there with you, but maybe next year. As far as my work goes, other than the piece I talked about earlier, I'm going light the rest of the week before we start on off-season focus. Priorities, free agency, et cetera, as we'll do the same on this show. But I can be followed on Facebook under Bob Rose and Twitter at BobbyR2613. My articles are published through the Canal Street Chronicles, which are on Facebook, Canal Street Chronicles, or Twitter at Saint CSC. Some great writers over there as well. And we'll cover the off season pretty thoroughly. And then, of course, if you aren't already a member of our Bayou Blitz Facebook group, guys, what are you missing? We have a lot of fun. Even this painful week, there's a lot of support. A little bit of a support group thing going on over there. But yeah, join the Bayou Blitz Facebook group. I think you'll definitely feel welcomed and definitely feel part of our family there.
Definitely. And don't forget, you can be able to follow all the Saints News at www.saintsnewsnetwork.com with Barry Hurst as our featured columnist. And you can check us out on the web at Saints News on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. All right, Hudak Nation, we'll be back. We're going to give you our breakdown on the Super Bowl next week. This is Kyle T. Mosley with Bob Rose at the Bayou Blitz. Bob, you guys stay warm up there.
Will do.
Okay, buddy. Y'all take care. Hudak, take care.
You too.
Bye.